subscribe.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Clinical Cookout. It's your aunties Ashley, Shug, Keisha, Amber here, and we are ready to give you a brand new show today. So check out our disclaimer first.
This podcast is for educational purposes only. We are qualified clinicians who will cover various topics on mental health and will sometimes provide community resources. We are not being paid by any organization for our content, and any information we provide is general and pertains to our own personal experiences. We do not, I repeat, we do not provide psychotherapy, diagnoses, or treatment recommendations on air. Any concerns related to your individual mental health should be directed to your medical and mental health professionals. We are not responsible for others' decisions or the subsequent consequences.
All right, y'all. So now that that's all out of the way, we're going to jump right into our hot sauce for today. Auntie Amber will be joining us for the main dish, dealing with some parenting things right now, as she has in the past and we all have. So don't worry, she'll be back for that main dish. But hot sauce today. So we have recently seen in social media various people, but also in our real lives, where we get into relationships, whether family, friends, romantic. We're in these close intimate relationships, sharing things with one another, being vulnerable. But then something happens and that relationship gets broken. And now all of a sudden, this person who you trusted with your deepest, darkest secrets and you were vulnerable with is telling your business. Is either telling your business to people in the family or within the friend group, or putting your business on social media. And what do we think of this? Are we of the mindset that I don't care if we are not friends or not together, I'm taking everything to the grave? Or are we like, well, you kind of set yourself up, shouldn't be telling people all your business?
I think this is I personally, I do not feel like I should be putting people's business out, even if I'm not friends with them anymore, or if I'm not with them anymore. Now, if one of my closest friends asks me what's been going on, about everything, and they're really genuinely concerned about me, then yes, I will discuss those things. But I don't like running to the internet telling people or telling just random people. That's not something I would do. And I also think that speaks to people's character. Like if you're going to do some stuff like that, then I cannot ever trust you. However, there is a flip side to this, and I see a lot of TikTokers that talk about, listen, they talk about be the bigger person. They're like, no, sometimes you gotta tell a bitch off. Yep. Sometimes you gotta go lower than low. Yep. It was like when Michelle Obama said go high. No, we going low. We going to hell. This will keep going.
I'm going.
So I think about that, but I also, in that sense, I think it depends on the disrespect or what this person has done to you, and maybe creating a narrative that's just not true. So sometimes you do got to come out and correct folks if it's not true. Now, other people are like, no, I'd rather not. I don't want to deal with it. So I don't know. I'm more the person that I'm already private anyway. So if things have gone awry in the background, y'all will not know that, because I will not put that out on the internet. And only if I trust somebody is when I'll actually explicitly say the things that have happened. But I wouldn't put that out there. Hell, I don't even claim like the person I be with half of the time on the internet. So I damn for sure ain't gonna come out and tell my business. Damn, I don't do that.
I don't like that. So my bestie, she always say it with your chest. If you're gonna be saying something, don't do the subliminal. And I'm guilty of the subliminal sometimes, because sometimes I'll be like, I'm so irritated, and it's hard to not just like say what you're thinking. But the problem with social media is hit dogs holler. And so whenever somebody gets hit, sometimes it's not even for them, and they hollering because they have something in them that they think is for them, or they have something in them that they know that they're guilty of, and then they're hollering. So as far as putting people's business out, I don't too much do that, but I'm guilty of a good subliminal here and there. And then sometimes the subliminal ain't even for you, and people still get hit. Or they be third party mad, and I'm like, that wasn't even for you. What's wrong with you? I don't know, but as far as like you said, when you said it speaks to character, it does speak to the character. If now we mad, so now you had to go on the internet and tell all my business.
Yeah, see, I always go back to things my grandmother told me. And that, when Keith said it speaks to character, immediately I remember my grandmother, and probably a lot of older black women have said this. If a bitch will bring you a bone, she'll take one. So if she bringing you somebody else's business, don't think she won't tell yours, or he won't tell yours. So my thing is, I can't trust you if you talk about somebody who was your close friend to me. Because y'all not friends no more, you telling me they business, then I can't trust you. I'm not telling you anything. And I think a lot of people think, like, I'm always on social media. Y'all know I'm always on social media. And a lot of people think that a lot of my life is public. That's what I want people to see. The other things, a lot of things people don't know. I appear a certain way, not saying that I'm like fake, but I only post usually. Most people only post the good stuff. I'm not about to sit up here and post. I'm not about to sit up here and post.
Okay, sure.
You stupid. I'm not about to sit up here and post the horrible things that I deal with all the time. Now I have been transparent though, like, because I feel like people know that it's okay to not be okay. If you show you're not okay sometimes, you can't just always show yourself to be, oh, I'm on top of the world and everything is great. Sometimes you do have to say, no, I'm going through it, or something just happened and I'm going through it, or my marriage is going through it right now. You can say that without giving too much detail. But
why do people have to post that?
I think that's a good question, Shug. Like, if you are posting this out of spite, or you are posting this to hurt somebody, again, that to me speaks to your character. And I believe that's I just think that that's so childish. Like, you don't gotta post that. Like, you don't have to do that. Now if you, there are times where I've seen people who say, I've already went to this person privately and they responded publicly. Now you gotta respond publicly.
Yeah, I'm right.
So I think that there are different things that may, or different things, nuances that may happen where you may feel compelled to respond publicly, but I feel like everything should be done privately. We could do this in private, and if you feel like you can't do that, like, I'll say, for instance, I will put it out there. Somebody had, when I did my gala, somebody had an assumption that I did not ask the permission of the person we honored at my gala. They publicly said something. I did not know until I got a phone call saying, hey, somebody shared a post and basically had something to say. Now, I'm thinking to myself, like, oh my God, like, I just literally came off this great event doing this event, and this person shared their dislike for me doing this event publicly.
Wow.
So I was like, oh my God, how do I handle this? So being the professional that I am, and me wanting to do more galas, I went on that person's post publicly and explained to them, this is what happened. This is who I asked permission from. Here is my goal and my mission. They responded publicly, and then that person came to me privately and said, well, this is what happened on our end. We thought this. And I was like, that's not what the intention was. Here's what my goal was. And they were like, okay, can you call so-and-so to clarify with this person? I called so-and-so privately, and we had that discussion. I let that person know I had that phone call, and they were like, okay, I will remove the post publicly out of respect. Thank you.
But see,
So
that's the thing.
happen.
Yeah, but even with professionals, why was it put up there publicly instead of you getting the courtesy of a phone call or somebody saying, you know what, I didn't like this. You know what I mean? Let me email her or let me speak to her. Because for me, professionalism is everything. And I don't like people who are unprofessional. I don't want to work with people who are unprofessional. And I don't want to hear well, who deems what's professional? You know, if anybody is made to feel uncomfortable in interactions, if people can't be worked with at work, like, there's a certain level and a certain bar of professionalism that I like to deal in. And that right there was unprofessional. So why not come to me? Like, why?
But that person, but I will, okay, let me clarify. That person was not a professional or in the professional realm. They were a person who was related to someone that I had no clue. And they had an assumption, and that assumption was wrong. And they was not, I granted, again, I don't know the full backstory of what was going on. So before that happened, I had no clue what was going on. But they felt a certain way and reacted to something that they didn't know what I was doing on my end. And obviously we're not crossing paths to talk, and they publicly said something. And I was like, oh shoot. Now I could have just handled it privately and went to their inbox, but I didn't. I responded publicly because there were people on there responding on things that was not true.
Yeah,
Let me say not true, but they were seeking clarification. So I clarified publicly.
So
And I was like, okay, if somebody comes to this post, they at least know I responded publicly. Is that what I wanted to do? No, because I would have handled that behind the scenes. But unfortunately, it made me go public because I had to.
So you said if you're gonna give me that public smoke, then I'm gonna bring it publicly too.
I want the
Professionally, yeah. I brought the professionally and clarified things and what things were, and that person then came to my inbox, and then they were like, okay, now we done got everything figured out. I'll remove the post.
Okay.
And I did, and they did out of respect. We both respected each other, where each other was coming from, and they removed it. But sometimes, now would I want to handle things publicly? Absolutely not. Like, if I'm going to embarrass myself, let me embarrass myself. Let me explain my side of the story. Let me do it. But don't embarrass me. And then expect, I would have, yeah. So there are certain times where you don't want to publicly do that, but it's pushing you to do that.
Well,
and again, while I don't agree,
there's some family members who go out there and they go in on their other family members publicly.
And see, and
I'll
come back publicly real quick when it's something like that. I remember when my one uncle passed, and I'm not even gonna put names out there. I'm sure my family will know exactly what I'm talking about. But one of my uncles passed, and his ex-partner posted some things, and we went ham. She posted it publicly. We went ham publicly. And we would have went ham at her front door if it had come to that, because we felt so utterly disrespected in that moment. It was like, no, ma'am, you will not drag my family's name through the mud. You will not drag my uncle's name through the mud right now. No, you won't. So I can see, and in a lot of, like in Keisha's particular case that she described, had she stayed silent, people don't realize sometimes silence speaks really loud. Had she not said anything, then people would have ran with their own narrative of that, and it would have maybe tarnished her name for doing another gala. She had to speak publicly. She could not inbox that person privately.
But see, stuff like that, like professionally, I could see, like defending yourself professionally, but sometimes, like even privately, I don't always respond to public stuff when people get froggy, because I'm not a Twitter finger person. I don't like all of that. I don't have time to hide behind a computer and type things. We can talk about it in person, or you can call me like a grown up. That's how I feel. And I match energy, so I've never been the type of person to kind of like, well, let me go talk about it publicly. Not with everything, like. I've done it where I've been angry, but not to where it's me and somebody's going back and forth and we're about to fight on the internet and we're going at it, or even being my siblings and stuff. Let people make their own narrative. Come to me. Yeah, nobody can tell my story like me.
I agree, Suge. I agree, but when it came to me doing this as the first event ever in my county, I agree 100%. If somebody gonna come at me in person. Because we can have some choice words, but at the time I went on there and I said I had to clarify with them. I don't act professionally or unethically, so I am going to seek permission from who I need to seek permission from, and I would never step over the boundary. I had to make that clear to them.
Well, yeah, that's professionally. I'm talking about the other stuff.
Personally,
if you stepping out of bounds, I don't want to respond, Suge.
Sometimes I can't help that. Can't help that.
And you're right, Ashley. Somebody has, like, family-wise, there's some things that has happened in my family, and somebody has gone public and said something. And my cousins went right on there and said, so what you trying to do? Period. Anytime you want to step, you come. That's why I ain't say nothing, because I have my family gang members and stuff, so they done been in jail. So I'm not going to say nothing. But I peeped it. And the people who need to go on there to say something, they don't care. My family don't care. They will get right on there.
There's definitely members in my family, and my mom has always said it. You need to be more afraid of the quiet ones who not talking. My mother is like that. My mother is quiet. She don't talk, but my family knows my mother will snap quickly. She's done it before. So you gotta be careful. Some people will say things back and not allow you to say something publicly. But switching gears, actually, y'all made me think about something. The only thing I kind of haven't ever addressed when it comes to stuff like this, social media and what you say on social media. Have y'all ever had somebody, you post something, right? It ain't about nothing. It don't even have to be about a person or anything. Like you post that you are at this place. Like you post, oh, at this restaurant with the husband or something like that. Have you ever had somebody call you and say, hey, that's not on social media. Hey, such and such told me about your post. I'm like, why are you, what? Granted, I posted it on social media. Let me make this a little bit more clear. My husband is not on social media. He hates it. He hates all social media. He does not get on social media. He has no pages. There was a time when I used to get so very irritated because anything I would post, it didn't matter what it was, somebody would call him to tell him what I posted. And they know he doesn't have social media. So I'm like, first of all, if you have an issue with what I posted, why didn't you say something to me? Why are you calling my husband as if to say what? Like, what are you saying, calling my husband, telling him what I posted?
They had to make sure that you that he knew you was out there acting up.
Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't
I
get
don't
it.
know.
I'm like, what? And it would be the simplest things like, oh, so y'all on vacation? What? Like, what?
If you put it out there, how you get upset about it?
Because he's not, everybody in his life knows he's not on social media. And every time they call and say something, he's like, I don't know what she posted. I ain't on social media. Why do y'all tell me these things? Why do y'all call me every time she posts anything? I don't care.
That's the risk when you got social media, is everybody, you're putting your business out there for everybody to see. Me, I post the good stuff. And if you want to know what's going on in my life, those are the people who call me.
Well, but first of all, that's crazy. I don't do nobody that's gonna call everybody else except calling me. I do think it's important to understand that when you are putting your business out there, you got to be. It sounds like we got to be selective on what we put out there, because obviously people want to run back and tell whoever they want to tell. But also, if it's a professional clapback, be sure to just make sure that you ain't losing your job. And you can put people in their place professionally if you need to. I've done it, so It can definitely happen. So I understand how that could be hard, but keep them folks out your business.
I wanted to add to that, Keish, because one thing that I've noticed as a trend is that people will hold your posts whenever you were in a whole nother arena in your life, and whenever you kind of make it big, or whenever you're doing something and you're on a public platform, people will save that and put that out there and embarrass you later on or try and get you canceled. This is also cancel culture. Yep, and right. So I think as a social media, put out there what you don't mind representing for you and what you can speak back to.
The mother-child bond is the first bond all of us, every human being alive has a bond to their mother. Instantly from the moment we are born, they carry us for 9 months. But there's something different about a mother-daughter relationship. And it could be a good bond and it could be a not so good bond. So today we wanted to kind of talk about different things relating to mothers and daughters specifically. So, we could just start it off by giving our own input on what our mother-daughter relationships look like.
Keish.
Okay, fine. So my relationship with my mom didn't always start off as the best. I told y'all before that with me growing up, my mom wasn't, my mom didn't go past high school, so she didn't get an advanced degree. So she had worked in certain jobs that wasn't paying her, or she had to work a lot in order to pay bills. And so a lot of that money wasn't filtered down to me or helping me in certain things that I needed help with, or just even understanding just certain life lessons that I needed. And that really, really, changed our relationship. But now as an adult, and I'll repeat what was the turning point. Someone told me that my mom probably did what she could with what she had. And that literally changed my perspective on our relationship. And so as an adult, yeah, we all know teenagers, we hard-headed, we think we grown, we think, we know everything. But as an adult, I'm as closest to my mom I've ever been. And my mom's name is Brenda, so I call her Brenda. She get mad about it sometimes, but I don't be caring. But now we get to do things today, like go to the movies. We cook out together. She comes to help me move. Like I'm in the middle of a move, she'll come down and help me move, and she stand beside me. Like she was like, I'm gonna always stand beside you. And my greatest supporter right now is my mom. But before it wasn't like that. So I would say mother-daughter relationships can change. And for me, it has changed in a more positive light.
That's good. Keish, me and my mom, we have a very close relationship now. I love talking to my mom. My mom's name is actually Linda.
Linda
Yep,
and
Linda and
Brenda.
Brenda. But we didn't always have this relationship either. I think that like we both have strong personalities, and with just both of us having strong personalities, I'm one where it's not that I can't be told anything, but I've always had, from a little girl, I always remember having my own mind. Like I've marched to the beat of my own drum probably since I was born. And she always says that, like I've always been strong. Like she actually nicknamed me Boss Lady. I have to bring my Boss Lady cup sometime, but she actually nicknamed me Boss Lady because I've always marched to the beat of my own drum. And like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do what I'm going to do. But the dynamic sometimes gets sticky because, if I feel something, I say something. And then when when you say something to another strong person, it's going back and forth. It's going to be a pop off. And so we have our pop off sessions sometimes, but I feel like we always come back to where we're supposed to be.
I've actually been pretty blessed to have had a close relationship with my mom for almost all of my life. I can't really think of any moments where I got like so upset that I didn't want to talk to her or anything like that. We probably talk more now than we did back in the day. I talk to her every day. I don't know if that's excessive or not. But yeah, she's always been supportive. She's always been, pushing me and encouraging me to reach my dreams. Like there's really no complaints with my relationship with my mom.
Okay. Yeah, me and my mom have a very close relationship. We always have. And I think I actually attribute it to the fact that her and her mom had a very close relationship. And I was very, very close to my maternal grandmother as well. So it was always like the three of us. Like growing up, it was my grandma, my mom, and me. So, I have never gone any amount of time without talking to my mother. I talk to my mother every day. And like, my husband actually finds that weird. He's like, what do y'all got to talk about every single day? I'm just so used to it. We just talk every day. She's my biggest supporter. The one thing I'll say was an issue, because we had our issues, especially when I was a teenager. The one thing was an issue with my mom was that she didn't want me to grow up. She had a very hard time accepting that I was becoming an adult. So that was hard for her. Because I'm also her only child, though. So it was very hard for her to let me grow up.
Well, Ashley's talking about, her mom having a hard time with her growing up, right? And in a sense, that means that your mom kind of like loses a little bit of control too, right? So when we talk about different types of relationships between mothers and daughters, control is often a huge factor. And whenever a parent, and I'm not saying this is your mom, Ash, but Auntie Ash, but whenever a parent does start to lose control or they feel like they don't have that control over their child anymore, then they start to display some like really dysregulated and odd behaviors. And sometimes it's negative things. It's yelling. It's screaming at that person all the time. And that's where we kind of get into those toxic mother-daughter relationships.
Sometimes it seems like when you get those parents that don't want their kid to grow up or that don't want their child to grow up, it's also they don't want them to make the same mistakes that they did, and so then they try to exert control over them that way. So it's like, oh, I don't want you to grow up and do the things that I did, so let me streamline everything that you do for you so that you don't make a mistake. And then I think sometimes it's about looking bad on them.
I would probably have to agree with that, Shug. I get a lot of parents in therapy who try to control their children because they don't want their child to either make the same mistake as them, or they're trying to prevent their child from learning or experiencing something that they experienced that it didn't go well for them. And so it is very hard to talk to parents when they don't allow their children to live life or don't allow their children to learn certain things because they're so scared of the world doing something to their child that they can't control. When actual reality, you can't control anybody, not even your kid. You just can't do it. But I had the opposite experience of Ashley. My mom parentified me. So I was the person who had majority of the control. And there's this guy on TikTok who asked this question: why are the oldest daughters think that they have control over the family? And I want to answer that. So it's not because and a lot of women agreed, or a lot of women were in the comments saying, we didn't ask to be in those positions. We were pushed into those positions. And so when I talked about my mom not having those finances growing up, I had to go out and get a job when I was 14. Well, when the lights got cut off, or when I had to pay for things in school, I realized, okay, if I don't get this on my own, that's the only way this is going to get done. And I then took on that role moving forward. So now everything that happens, even to this day, now that everything happens, my mom waits until I come around to discuss it with me. She won't make a decision unless I have something to do with it. She will have me look over the information. And so, but when I got into my doctorate program, there was a point in time where I couldn't hold the weight of just me trying to do schoolwork and trying to make sure their bills and all that stuff was taken care of. And I actually told my mom, I said, Mom, I love you to death, but I can't keep making adult decisions for you. I can't keep paying for this. I can't keep pulling you out of situations. I can't keep doing it. And ever since then, we didn't have no problem. But there are moments, we do have our moments where I still have to make a decision for the family, and the best decision. And that's how it's always been. And that's not a position I asked to be in. That's a position I was pushed in.
Let me clarify that a parentified child is a child that is put into an adult position at an earlier age, and that child ends up being sort of a parent to the parent. And Keisha explained it beautifully. I just want to make sure that everybody had a sense of what a parentified child is.
That is correct. So I parent Brenda sometimes. She's learning to do things on her own, but when there's like major stuff, like if she didn't have a car, so 6 months ago or a year ago, I had to make the decision to contact certain people, like, hey, I need this car, I'll give you this X amount of money. Like, I made that decision. And so, it's not something that I want to do, but I have to do to make sure my mom is going to be okay. So I know that a lot of people, and they talk about this on Twitter, about what generational wealth looks like differently for cultural groups. And so, when we build generational wealth, it's to help out our people that are being left behind. So when I make money, I don't not only make money for me, I make money for my mom, my sister, my nephew, to make sure that they got it. Again, that's the parent in me, to make sure everything is okay, because my mom couldn't do that for me growing up. Which some people could say is unhealthy or toxic as well.
It's actually really normal. A lot of children, especially oldest daughters, seem to be more prone to becoming parentified children. I see.
But is it?
No.
Is it normal and healthy though? Because all my white friends don't gotta do that.
Healthy. I didn't say healthy.
Oh.
I said it's become normal.
It ain't even normal.
Is it normal though?
No.
Is it?
I think y'all hearing that in the wrong way. I mean,
maybe common. Common is the term. Maybe common is the term.
That is very common.
It's more common.
It's very, very common. It's not a normal thing. It's not healthy, but it is very, very common. So a lot more people especially a lot more older daughters, literally can relate to you because they were in that same position.
And so it's not even necessarily common. Because when you start talking about parentified children, you're talking about a deficit in the parent. And so when there's a deficit in the parent, sometimes that parent can be on alcohol, they could be on drugs, they can, they can not function well cognitively, or like Keish said, they've gotten in the position to where they've gotten used to their oldest child being the parent and they're ready to step back. And so it might be okay for them, but for the child, it always bears, never and always are not good. It usually bears some sort of trauma in there. So when she's talking about it, she's not saying like, I love being my mother's mother. She's talking about it like, I'm parenting my mother. And I think that we normalize things that are not normal.
That don't need to be. That don't. And one thing you miss too, how young somebody becomes a mother. If you are dealing with a teenage mother, she's still a child. Teenagers are not grown. So if you're dealing with a teenage mother who doesn't know who she is yet and still trying to figure out her identity, and now she's a mother to a child, sometimes I notice in those relationships where that mother and child are really, really close friends from the very beginning. It looks almost like a friendship instead of a parent-child relationship. And those children sometimes become parentified earlier because their parent was a child still.
When parents are on drugs sometimes is definitely difficult too, because I've witnessed situations where the child is not only the mother's parent, but also the parent of all those other kids up under them. And that's a difficult position to be in. And a lot of times it's a significant amount of stress. And then sometimes you get the kids, especially in BIPOC communities, okay, Black, Indigenous, people of color. You get those kids, you get some of them that drop out of school because of that. They, get regular jobs that they would not have gotten if they were able to soar. And it affects their lives too.
Now I've always wanted to take care of my mom. Like I still will, to the day I die. There ain't gonna be no I'm leaving Brenda out in the trenches. Like I ain't gonna do that. I wanna before I die, I wanna see my mom own her own home. But I know like I'm gonna have to help her do that. Like she isn't gonna go out there do it. She may want to, she doesn't know how to navigate that. And so I have to teach her, or I have to step in to help her do those things. But I still want the best for my mom. And I would, like I said, never leave her just stranded because I don't want to take on that position anymore. No, it's just that's just where I fell into, and this is just what it's going to be. But I think that I've had to learn over time that I can set boundaries with mom. I didn't think I could, but now I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, mom, I cannot take this on. You have another daughter, or you can talk to someone, and y'all can help. Y'all can figure that out. Especially when I moved away to West Virginia, I was like, listen, I ain't gonna be here, so y'all gonna have to figure it out. And so she did. She figured it out. So I've learned now to know what those boundaries look like.
But even then, even though you moved away and she had to figure it out, how often did you worry about her? How often did you worry that she was going to be okay, that she was going to be able to figure it out? How often did you like check in and make sure, still checking in, like, hey, did you make sure that thing was paid, or did you make sure that this thing was done? Make sure you get that done. Like, was that still a thing for you?
Amber, I'm glad you brought that up because it's still, maybe it's just ingrained at this point because I still do that. But I don't do it with her. I do it with my nephew. So now I'm like, okay, he need to be in preschool. Where are we going? Did he get his shots? Like, what does he need? Like, that's me. Like, I need to make sure everything is in place to make sure everything is okay. And so that still happens. I'm trying to work on taking a step back because I'm not my nephew's mother. And so that's an area I need to still work on. How about that?
Yeah.
But you
so
know
I was trying to find a good time to say this because my kids being loud back here. But everything that y'all are talking about up until this point is considered enmeshment. Like, have y'all heard of enmeshment before? Like enmeshed family systems, where there's just literally a lack of boundaries. Children are taking on roles, and it's a confusion in the roles in the relationship. The kid is not allowed to depend on the parent for emotional support like a parent-child relationship should be. It's actually the opposite. So the parent is dependent on the kid to make sure that all these tasks get done. The parent is dependent on the kid to cheer them up when they're sad, or, you know, go get them their favorite things to make them feel better. And this child is now becoming that type of person. Like, it starts to shape your personality. So whereas, like you're saying, Keish, you might not do that with your mom as much anymore. You'll probably find that you're doing that with your friends, or that you're doing that with your siblings, you're doing that with your nephew, because it's become part of your personality as the caretaker, the one that makes sure everybody's good. And in relationships. And there's also
is this
just
therapy
real
session?
quick.
Is this
No,
therapy?
I'm saying in general. But real quick, there's also
Damn, these motherfuckers are calling me out.
no, but it is a thing. So it shapes your personality. You start to feel that way, and then you have this really unrealistic assumption or expectation of yourself, in that if I don't check in, if I don't check on everybody and make sure everybody's good, everything's gonna fall apart.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel like I have to do it. Like, even if I have all this other stuff to do, if I don't do this, I'm gonna fall apart. The world's gonna fall apart. Everybody's life is gonna fall apart.
You are exactly right, Amber. That is exactly what happens in my life, in my relationships, in my friendships. And so I know y'all always come at me and be like, why aren't you saying anything? Why aren't you doing this? I have, over time, that has really negatively impacted my friendships before. It has negatively impacted certain things in my life. So there are times I don't say something because I was like, I don't need to take over. I don't need to, you know, I know y'all asked me for my input because we're all into this together, but there are some things I do need to work on. And so when I'm quiet or don't say nothing, that's part of it, because I'm like, okay, I'm gonna let them take the lead. I don't need to say nothing. And so there is some things I need to work through, and I'm still a work in progress.
Well,
So
not even you.
It does shape my personality.
Yeah, not even you. Not even only you, Keish. Children who are parentified, period, they get used to taking over. A parentified child is just like one of the oldest siblings. Like, birth order matters, and then the way that you parent your children matter. And so when you say that it shapes your personality, or any parentified child, when it starts to shape a child's personality, they do become the boss. So it could be good. You can become a boss in spite of, or it can be so anxiety producing that it causes depression in that child, and then that child wants to relinquish control to anybody. And when you want to relinquish control to anybody just because you are tired of having control, that can become detrimental in relationships. There are some mother-son relationships where you see that the mother is not in her place. More so, she wants to be the girlfriend, not literally wants to be the girlfriend, but she might not be in her place because it's like, I want to relinquish control to somebody. I've always had to have that control, so let me go ahead and allow this person to take over. And then, I mean, that just interferes with interpersonal relationships, period.
And it's interesting that you bring that up. I mean, we talking about mothers and daughters for sure, but in that dynamic of mom-son, I think people think that it's cute and funny sometimes when mothers say, oh, my son is the man of the house. That's not cute. That's not funny. That is parentifying that boy early. And we don't say it that way for daughters, though. You ain't never gonna hear no mother say, my daughter is the woman of the house, even if she has been parentified. You're not gonna usually hear a mother make that statement. So it's an interesting dynamic how it's different when it comes to the daughter. Our oldest daughters are parentified, but it's also very hard for that mother to accept what has occurred. Like, sometimes to go up against your mother, that might be a problem, because you still got the matter of you're not gonna disrespect me type of thing.
Yeah, and it's also expectations and assumptions as well. So the mother expects that the older daughter is going to take over a lot of the household duties and like helping to care for the younger kids and stuff. It's an expectation and also an assumption that that's who she wants to be as well, because that's who the mom is. She identifies mostly as a mom and or a wife. And so assuming that, well, my daughter also wants to take on this role at some point in her life too, so let me go ahead and teach her now. Let me go ahead and put it all on her now so she can. So, I mean, in that way, I mean, like, the mom is trying to prepare the daughter to learn how to do these things, but just not doing it in the most healthy way.
a parentified parent is a parentified parent, right? Whether it's the daughter or whether it's by the son. Like one thing Ashley said was, when you're talking about my son is the man of the house, that's enmeshment at its finest. And not even only enmeshment, that's also a relationship that gets sticky, because whenever that person goes to go get into a relationship with the other person, now they're expected to be the man of that house, or are they allowed to relinquish control there? And so you start, I don't know, I think you start putting control in places where it doesn't necessarily belong.
Mm-hmm. Not only that, but if you are a mother who has said that, what happens when you do fall in love? What happens when you do bring another man into that house? You have caused a possible toxic dynamic between your child and the person you want to be with. Possible.
What happens when the son gets a girlfriend and then gets married and brings her into the home? Then what's that mother daughter-in-law relationship look like right there?
I just
what's that?
There's literally a girl on Twitter. There's a daughter on Twitter that said the same thing about her parents. Her father had to choose between his mother and his wife, and he chose the wife, and the mom immediately cut him off. Wasn't in his life ever after that. Ever.
And that's where the roles are so confused. Like, your role as a mother is not the same as this other woman's role as your son's wife. It's completely different. There's enough space for both of y'all.
Child.
Right. It's ridiculous. How many mothers are like that?
Just know I ain't dating nobody's son if you doing that. No, ma'am, no, sir.
No, but you know what you see? So the newest thing, I think that, I guess people think it's cute to be like, I'm doing this with somebody's son. I don't find that cute.
No.
I don't even like when people say it, because then I'm like, do you know what that comes with? When you say like, oh, this is going to be me on the beach with my legs spread with somebody's son. Okay. You're going to be with somebody's son instead of a grown man. And that's the thing that
I never thought like that, Suge. But I see where you're coming from. I never looked at it from that perspective.
You cannot say I don't want to raise nobody's son and then keep referring to him as her son.
Somebody's son,
a grown man. You can't say that.
I mean, it was a cute trend at first. I don't think people really thought about. But then after a while, I'm just like, okay.
I don't necessarily like the trend where you say I'm going to be with somebody daddy. Like, ugh, I cannot. Oh. Calling my husband daddy is triggering for me.
Oh, you meant like your, oh, wait.
Like, you know, when people say it, like even when it was a trend along with the son thing where people were like looking for somebody daddy, like older women was like, nah, or even younger girls like, nah, I want they daddy. I don't want the son. I want somebody daddy. I'm like, I don't want nobody daddy. I don't want nobody daddy.
Yo, my Instagram caption when I turned 36, I was like, I'm young enough to date your son, but old enough to date your
and that is true.
You would be one of the ones. I'm glad to make you look at that differently, because when you say I'm going to be with somebody's son, of course, figuratively, you're going to be with somebody's son. But then think about that. I want a grown man, because you know what? That mother-in-law relationship is rough, especially if you have a mother-in-law that's very enmeshed with her child, because some people see you as competition instead of a bonus daughter or the gatekeeper to their grandkids. And that's a problem too, because now when your relationship is messed up with the mother-in-law, then sometimes the kids fall in it. If you get one that's sick enough, you'll get somebody that, you know what I mean, that don't love on the grandkids the same way, because people treat your kids the way they feel about you. And that can be a detriment. And then think about the strain that it places on that man who is supposed to put his wife first, his kids, and then his extended family. Because when you get married, your extended family become your nucleus that you were born and raised in, they become extended family. Your nucleus is now the people in your household.
Baby, that's been a whole social media topic for years. Just saw it yesterday. My cousin posted it. The order of what it's supposed to be. And he put his order as wife. Did he put wife, daughter, mother, sister? Like if a man has a mom and a sister and a wife and a daughter.
It was
he put
wife, mother, sister.
Daughter. He put daughter. He put daughter, wife, mother, sister. And
he put daughter, mother, sister, wife. Wife was last.
Oh, that was it. Yeah, my cousin changed it. He was like, that's wrong. It's supposed to be daughter, wife, mother, sister. And I was like, even yours is wrong. It's not. Your wife has to come first. And people struggle with that so much. And for a man in a situation where he was enmeshed with his mother like that, it's hard. It's very hard. And it makes that mother-in-law, daughter-in-law relationship really hard.
Wait, who said, where are y'all getting this from that it's wrong? Like, where are y'all getting the correct
Well, not wrong.
order
Let me not
from?
say wrong. Everybody has their own idea of what that order should be. So let me
I'm
not
a double
say
down.
wrong. But
I'm a double down.
I won't
And
say
the reason
wrong.
why
Go ahead, double down, my double down.
let me tell you why I'm a double down
Oh,
on
Miss
it.
Double Down.
Double down. And the reason why I'm a double down on that is because your spouse, you marry this person that you're supposed to create this life with, and then you have children. So you keep the life that you keep the person that you married ahead. When y'all are good, everything falls into place. The kids are good. Whenever you and that person are not good, the kids always suffer. The mother is going to be on the outside looking in, because you know what's going to happen is whenever you and that person don't work out because you putting your kids first, kids change their minds like they change their draws because they're growing up. And so whenever you put them kids before you put your spouse, or whenever you put your mother before you put your spouse, them kids are going to grow up. And when they grow up, they're going to find somebody that's going to make them happy. And when they find somebody that's going to make them happy, they're going to make their own kids. And when they get their priorities straight, you going to be on the outside looking stupid talking about some, but wait, I did all this for you. And they're going to be like, Ma, you got to find your own life. This is my life now. And then you're going to be out there like, dang, I done gave up my spouse for you. I done gave up, my eternal happiness for you. Me and your daddy could have been on this cruise. We could have been somewhere living it up. But I gave all this up for you because I had the audacity to put you first. If you put your spouse first, everything else falls into place. And people get in the place that they need to be.
I have a problem with that, because that's like, I don't know, how do I say this? Because I feel like my husband and my kids are on the same like they're on the same like it's not husband first, then kids, then this, then that, then the other. Like they are on the same. And then my extended family, my mom, my dad, my brother are kind of on the same, but underneath them. But it's not like one of them is more important than the other. So that's where I'm kind of confused as to who said there was an order that was accurate and like it's supposed to be a certain way. And then wait, I got one more thing too. We're talking culturally too. So you're looking at it from the perspective of a black woman and a black family. But I have worked with people in the Latinx community where everybody is a priority. Like it's the whole entire extended family, the kids, the partner, the grandparents, the aunts, the uncles, like they're all in the same house and they're all a priority. So who said, where y'all getting this from? I need the research that says it's supposed to be this particular
Bible. I'm gonna tell you.
Oh, see, then that's why I'm not messing with it.
Maybe not for you, Shug. If you have your own personal experiences, I think that's different from like if you have an experience, then yes, that may be different. But typically, commonly, that order in the black family comes from the Bible. Typically, and it that isn't everybody.
But that just because it comes from the Bible,
that makes sense.
But that don't make it wrong. Everything that comes from the Bible,
I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's wrong. I just wanted to know. Y'all are saying like, oh, this is not the way. This is the order it should be, and I'm like, where is this shit coming from? Like, where is it coming from?
That's why I changed my wording. It's not a right or wrong because everybody's different and everybody is gonna do things differently. That frame does stem from a biblical perspective. The reason I say it, though, is actually not as tied to the Bible, even though that's where it comes from. I say it because my grandmother instilled in me, when you get married and you have children, your children are going to leave, and she was cutthroat. She said your children are going to one day leave that house, and your parents are going to die, and then it'll be you and your spouse. And if for years you put everybody before your spouse, what do you think is going to happen?
You never know. Your spouse might die before your kids, and so then if you put everybody else before your kids, then what's going to happen? I just don't see the order. That's all I'm saying. For me, it's husband and spouse is on the same, mom, dad, brother on the same, and then the rest of the family come after in no particular order. But that's just kind of how I
think the word you tripping on is the order. And
that's what it means.
I'm a triple down on it. I'm a triple down on it. I don't care. If it came from the Bible, it came from the Bible. But when I married my husband, My kids were not there. So we built this family together. If me and him take care of one another, our kids are always going to be good. We always going to be their nucleus. My kids are always going to know that we are home. Just like when you go in your house with your mom and your dad, and maybe you didn't see it like that, but they're your nucleus. If they're not together because they put you first and then you went off and you got married and you had your own kids, that's how you get those mother-in-laws that think that their son is their man. Because now they're single and they run around here looking and ready to mingle, but they want somebody to treat them as good as their child is going to treat them.
I would have to say, I don't know. I agree
still
with
don't
both
agree
you.
with
I
that.
agree with both Amber and you, Shug. I agree with both y'all because I do. There is if the connection is healthy, Shug. If it's healthy, your way your order, I believe, would work. If it's healthy. But a lot of people are not healthy. It's not healthy. And they will triple, double, quadruple down on being down, riding and dying for this spouse who been treating them like shit. And of course your kids is gonna suffer.
Gonna come first. Yeah.
Of course your kids is gonna suffer because she only riding for him. And it's like, oh, well, I'm gonna just I'm not gonna think rationally through this. If it's healthy, yes, I do believe your order work. However, because I do not believe people come over kids, I also understand where Amber coming from. My kids and if I was married, my kids and my spouse is going on the same level. Like, I'm going to be 10 toes down on my kids. Like, because kids can't fend for themselves. That's the only reason why I would slightly put my kids above my spouse, because my kids can't fend for themselves. Yeah. So I understand Amber's point too.
But in a healthy, like you said, healthy. When it's healthy, you putting your spouse first, your spouse putting you first, and y'all putting your kids first. And that's why people need to check and see how healthy they are.
I like that. I agree.
Well, I'm going to double down.
I still disagree, and I'm going to double down on that.
I agree.
Both of you should be putting
I can.
You too. I agree with you too.
But here's the thing with that, because we getting into what's healthy and what's not. Well, we've been talking about what's healthy, what's not with the enmeshment and everything. But here's the thing too. When some people put that spouse first, especially when we talk about mothers and daughters, if that spouse is not that girl's biological father and you put that man first, then we sometimes run into situations. Because there are situations in unhealthy relationships where that woman, that mother, puts that man first, and now she takes that man's word over her daughter's. Her daughter tells her something and she doesn't believe her daughter. There's not anything that my daughter could tell me that I wouldn't believe. So that mother-daughter dynamic can get sticky when you talk about, if you bear it down to this woman puts this man before her child.
Now that brings us back.
That's all I was trying to say.
That ain't what you were saying.
I ain't feeling that.
No, that ain't what I was saying.
It's different.
But it's just,
if that man is not that child's father, biological father. If this woman has gotten married and this is this girl's stepfather.
You just said that.
all I'm saying is, when it comes to like the order and the priorities or whatever, it's just your own personal perspective. And like Keisha's saying, if it works for you, if it works for your family, if it's healthy, then go for it. But I'm not here for the whole order thing. This is right, this is not right, this is how it should be, it shouldn't be. As long as it's healthy and it works. That's all I think is okay. Because I'm not going to put, I put my husband and my kids on the same level. I'm sticking to that, and that's it. That's where it's at.
No, so Ashley did bring up a good point about like step parents and step families. That's when I think that the dynamic gets a little bit weird. But I did want to point out that one thing I did say was that in the mother-son relationship, when, single parents are made, and we know that our community, the Black community, suffers from, I ain't going to say suffers, because you know what, I was raised by a single parent and my mom did a very good job. The Black community is known for being single parents, and we are known for not getting married and not having the nuclear family structure. And I think some of it is because of the narrative that we have the strong Black woman who's too strong to put anybody else first over the kids, and then you perpetuate that relationship, right? And then now we have the kids who are enmeshed with the parents. So that's how you get that mother-son relationship where that's my man, this my man, and it's like, ma'am, that's your son. And I need you to go and find you something healthy, because that's not healthy.
I think that's complex, Suge. I think
Yeah.
that's a complex. I don't think that that's one. Like, there's several viewpoints that go in part of why there are single parent families in the Black communities.
That's
There's
true.
a lot of systemic issues that address that. There's a lot of stereotypes that go along with that, and we see it all over the internet. And while I think that there is some issue with saying, like, yeah, my son is my man, and like, that's not your man. Like, yes, I do think there's some issues to that, but I don't think that the single parent families are created just from us just doing that. There are things
absolutely
part of that. Oh, okay.
No, I'm not. I don't think that's why they're created. I think that's one dynamic of it. I ain't gonna lie about it. That is it. I hear Mercy.
Well, I know y'all don't heard him over here. Anyways, we got kids. They know that. Y'all know we have kids, right? That's why they be in the background. But one of my next question, I guess, would be healthy. We've said the word healthy versus unhealthy, and I think Ash was touching on that a little bit. But what do you think of when you think of a healthy mother-daughter / parent-child relationship? What does that look like?
I will be the first to say healthy can look different for different people. So if I were to go into what that looks like for me personally and what I've seen in therapy, communicating. A lot of parents assume or expect their child to do something that they want them to do, and it doesn't work out. And then they shame the child, make the child feel guilty for whatever reason, and then that just breaks apart. So in therapy, I've seen that. And so communicating and actually allowing this safe space for you and your child to have dialogue, because the whole I'm the parent, you're the child, stifles a child from being open with their parent about things that may be bothering them, things that may come up for them. And so for me, when I see them in therapy, having that communication is so important. Obviously, developmentally appropriate. Now, for me personally, what I see as healthy is setting boundaries. Now that I'm old enough with my mom, this shouldn't be something that I should be scared to do. So if I can't do something or want to get out of that parentified role, I say, Mom, listen, I can't do it. Is there someone else that can help you with that? Instead of me taking that on, and instead of my mom feeling like, okay, because my mom has told me before, she's felt like upset, like if she couldn't pay the rent. And so she tried everything she can not to call me. And then she's got into a situation and now she's like over the, you know what I mean? So there are moments where she may internalize some things too when she doesn't want to ask me. And then we have to have that conversation like, hey, Mom, well, don't wait till the last minute. If you honestly have exhausted all your resources, you can come to me. But also, I'm not the person that should be immediately thought of when you can't figure something out. Mm-hmm. And that is where we're at now versus us having an expectation of each other or an expectation on my part or her part.
Mm-hmm. I agree, Keish. I think healthy can be different for different people, but communication is key. You have to agree together on what that looks like for your mother-daughter relationship. And I have some information pulled up here that I wanted to add. So according to this research, there are 6 traits for a healthy mother-daughter relationship. 1 is they spend the proper amount of time together. 2, they don't engage in making each other feel guilty. 3, they don't try to change each other into different versions of themselves. 4, they engage in positive conflict management. 5, both parties contribute to the relationship. And 6, the mother allows the daughter to experience failure. I think that last one and that third one about accepting, don't try to change them into different versions of themselves are probably the crucial 2 for mothers and daughters. Mothers have to learn how to let their daughters go at some point. Let them fail. Let them grow. Let them be that healthy adult that you raised them to be.
I think like with me and my daughter is getting old now. Like she's 12, and I won't say old, but she's getting older and she's 12, and I'm trying my hardest to allow her to have those natural experiences that 12-year-olds have. And I know that some of my friends struggle with their daughters having sexual urges or even thinking about boys and like just the things that are natural, but you don't want to think about. And so I allow her to grow into all that, and I let her talk to me about it. And not that I'm trying to be the sister or the cool mom, but I would rather you talk to me than you talk to your friends who are the same age as you, who have no experience about anything. And so I try to keep like that open door dialogue for my daughter. And then mental health. While my daughter is going through the teenage or the preteen stages, it's some serious times. Like these kids have social anxiety. It's difficult to go to school. We spent most of our time overseas, and now we're in Louisiana, and it's rough out here. And so they have a hard time. Like she has a hard time in school, and oh, you ugly, and this, that, and the third. And that's what our community brings sometimes. And so now I have her in therapy, and it's not because she needs somebody to, shrink her or anything like that, but it's because there might be somebody outside of mommy that you might want to talk to. There might be something that you don't want to say to me, and I want to foster the culture that it's okay for you to go and get help from an outside perspective if you need it. So, and I think that helps us stay strong and grow.
Okay, Shug.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Better set that example. Yes.
I liked when you said it's not that you're trying to be the cool mom or be her friend, because I hate when people say that. My child ain't my friend.
Me too.
Well, they should be. You can be a parent and a friend, and that's okay. But I think back to my mother. My mother always said, I wanted to raise you in a way that once you became an adult, we could be friends. See, some people grow into that adult daughter and don't want nothing to do with their mother because of past situations. And that's not healthy. So you want to raise your children in a way that they trust you, your daughters specifically. For daughters, it's really tough. Like, girls go through a lot. Let's just put it out there. And mothers have to remember, I was a girl once. That's what I always think when it comes to my daughter. She's 14. I always think, I was a girl once. Like, I know what she's going through. It's a different time, but it's the same story. She likes boys now. She's in high school. She wants to go to dances and go on dates. I know what that's like. So I want her to know I can ask my mom questions and she's not going to look at me crazy or accuse me of doing something just because I'm asking the question.
Yeah.
So it's important for your daughters to be able to talk to you in that capacity.
And I like, Shook, how you reflected on, hey, maybe I'm not always the person you want to come to, but let me find you a safe space for you to talk to someone that may have an outside perspective. Because children, I don't know why parents think that children just go tell them everything. Your child is not going to tell you everything. Mm-mm. And it's okay for you to have them to have another safe person that they can talk to, that get that outside, neutral, perspective. So I think that's so great that you did that for her.
Oh, thank you, girl.
Great. That's what y'all call bomb parenting right there. That's what you call great parenting.
You just reminded me of something with that, because you're absolutely right about.
I think Amber was about to say something.
Oh, was she? Go ahead, Amber.
She trying.
She muted. I didn't know because she was muted, so I didn't know.
It's all good. Go ahead.
No, this is real quick. Keish just reminded me of it, though. Another thing I would say is good for a healthy mother-daughter relationship is understanding that your daughter has her own opinions. She does not have to think like you. She does not have to be like you. She does not have to do things the way that you would. Even as a kid, she is her own little person, and that is okay. We tend to, especially in the Black community, we look at a child with an opinion like they disrespectful. No, they're a human being with their own thoughts, and that's okay.
I mean, if you would have let me slide in there, I was going to say something very similar to that. But yes, I agree with that. I would also go as far to say that I think some mothers, I think their feelings get hurt when their kids want to be different from them or don't want to be like them or do things like them, don't think like them. And instead of like it coming off as sadness, it comes off as like jealousy, anger, like those other standoffish, distant types of emotions, which sometimes contributes to that toxicity in the relationship too. So I would just say, parents, check yourself. Like, if you realize that you're having some kind of reaction or a negative emotion to your child wanting to be different than you or not wanting to do things the same way that you do, then you need to step back and check yourself, because that's not healthy for you or for that child. Like, you want them to develop into an individual. The other thing I wanted to just throw in there, y'all know I'm gonna come from the theories, I will throw in attachment styles as well. So, like, when we're talking about these relationships and how the whole dynamic between the mother-daughter, mother-son, whatever, it's helpful to know what your attachment style is so that you can be aware of and recognize when it's becoming unhealthy. So, of course, a secure attachment is when your child feels comfortable with coming to you when they're in distress, when they're confused, when they don't really know what's going on, they don't feel okay. They will come to you and talk to you about those things. But then you have a couple of different types of insecure attachment. The one that I see the most is that anxious type of attachment, where if the child starts to kind of do things on their own or become an individual and not do things the way you taught them, you get real anxious and you try to kind of pull them in and keep them close. And that child starts to do the same thing back to you. And then they start to do that to other people too. And it's just unhealthy. So you can look online for the different types of attachment styles, but once you recognize which yours is, because I know I have an anxious attachment style, I've had to do a lot of work to kind of back up and allow my child to just blossom into who she's going to be. But when you recognize that, you're like, okay, you know what? I'm doing that anxious thing again. I'm doing that push-pull thing where I'm like pushing her away, but like pulling her closer and giving her kisses. I'm confusing her. I need to chill out. I need to figure out what I'm doing. So that is definitely something that's important, is understanding how you attach and relate to your child or to other people.
Amber, can you talk about the helicopter mom and attachment styles? Because helicopter moms make their kids so anxious that it can be debilitating.
What is that one? That one would be anxious attachment too, right?
I'll use it in
sure
layman's
did.
terms. And what helicopter moms are the moms that want to hover. They want to do everything. They want to make sure that their child is like always okay. What are you doing? Are you okay? Are you with your friends? Like, they want to be with their child all the time because they think that something's going to happen, or it's to soothe their own anxiety. And what happens when you do that is you make this child afraid to go out on their own because, and I won't say make, you can cause this child to be afraid to go out on their own because they're afraid they're going to fail. You can cause them to not want to be around people because you've put your anxiety and your fears on them. And that can be a detriment to them and how they attach in relationships. That might be how you get the relationship where the mother depends solely on another person and can't be told anything because they don't know how to think for themselves. So it's important to allow your child, kind of more positive parenting, and to let them grow, make mistakes, fall, get hurt. It's okay. You can't say you can't be a big placemat for them all the time. You have to let these people grow into who they're going to be, independent of you, because at the end of the day, our children are on loan to us. They don't belong to us. Yeah.
Shug, it's interesting you said that, because I happen to have it pulled up when you said about the helicopter parenting and how they worry so much about these kids that they just hover over them. They did a study, actually. I think it was about, let me see, was it 2 years ago? 2 years ago? And they've done another one recently, too. They did a study. Participants were asked, mothers basically, were asked to hypothetically put themselves in a distressing predicament and then envision their child in the predicament. And they came to find that mothers experienced what's called high self-overlap, meaning when they pictured their children in distressing situations, their brains literally showed reactions that were nearly identical to the distress they imagined themselves in. So it's a brain thing sometimes when mothers fear for their children like that or worry so much. They literally, in their brain, it's happening to them.
I would say I've learned with my child and child psychotherapy, parenting psychotherapy book about collaboration versus hierarchy. And that has been something that I've been really trying to implement when it comes to working with children and families about, are you establishing a hierarchy? Are you establishing collaboration? And which one is giving you better results or a better outcome? Because when you establish hierarchy, yes, your children, and I said this on TikTok, your children know you are the parent. They don't need to be reminded, I'm the parent and you're the kid. They know that already. So how do you collaborate with your child to come to the best solution that's best, for them and for yourself or for the family? And so if you're getting a lot of resistance back, instead of putting on this, I'm the parent, I'm the boss, what does it look like to collaborate with your child? It's okay to collaborate with your child. I do it with my nephew. Hey, he was like, I don't want to do this. I'm like, okay, well, we can have a couple choices. Which one do you think you want to do? Do you want to play for 2 more minutes and then we can put your coat on? Or, what's the other option we can do? And he'll be like, okay, 2 more minutes, TT, 2 more minutes. And I'll be like, okay, I'm going to set the timer. And so instead of me being like, let's go right now because I said so, which is what my sister would do, I said, just give him, he said 2 more minutes. This is a deal we're making. So let's make this deal. And he will do that 2 minutes and he gets up and we walk out. So it's just taking those couple minutes where you can collaborate with your child versus trying to take over all the time.
Mm-hmm. Kids want to be parented.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Way too many parents, though, don't want to bargain with their child or offer them an option. And that's a problem.
Well, also, no, in addition to that, if you're not down for the bargaining, which I do that with my child, Keith, so I'm down for that. But you do have parents who are like, well, I'm not going to give I'm not doing that with my kid. Then you need to learn your kid. You need to learn about how your child responds to change. You need to learn about how your child, interacts with other people. You need to learn about your child. Don't just treat them like they're just in your house. They got to do what you say and that's it. If you recognize that your child gets a little frazzle, razzle, dazzle when it's time to switch, and go and leave somewhere, then you give them a 5-10 minute warning before then. There's no deal that needs to be made. They know that in 5 minutes it's time for me to go. But any kid, I can say any 2-year-old, you walk up to them and be like, all right, it's time for you to stop playing. We going to the store. That ain't gonna go good for you. So if you learn about your kid, the collaboration doesn't have to be in the same way that Keith said. That's very effective if you want to try it out, parents. But if you don't want to try it out, then at least learn about your child and try to kind of help them navigate the world, help them navigate changes, help them navigate relationships. That's what you're there for as a parent. When we talk about, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it won't be perfect. Like everybody thinks that once they do this the first time, everything's gonna be gold. No, you have to, again, like Amber said, you have to learn your child and what works for your child. Just because that works for my nephew does not mean that's gonna work for the next child. And it's important to, like Amber said, get to know your child. Know when your child is triggered or whatever ticks your child. Like you got to know that. Absolutely.
I mean, I kind of find it funny that when I do that with Mila, she feels like, oh, I just got a choice. Like, I decided on what I was going to do. I'm like, no, you got a choice out of 3 choices I gave you. Right, but you got a choice, girl. Yes, girl. Go ahead. Go off,
It's really manipulation. Like, yeah. That's why I say it's us against these kids. That's what me and my husband do. Like, I had to teach him, like, okay, they hear you. You don't have to stomp your feet. They know you're the parent. You were shot from there. They were shot from your loins. But one thing we both started to do is transition him. And my son Elias needs to be transitioned off the game. So get off the game. Turn it off right now. That never goes well. It's a 15-minute screaming match. But once we started learning how to transition him together, it was like, oh, okay. And he's like, oh, that worked? Yes, it works. Because sometimes, like you said, when you know your child, you got to know that he just doesn't transition well. And it's okay for me to learn them and give them shared power. People have to feel like they have control of something.
Shared power, what's
from research.
Absolutely. Shared power and autonomy and power, yes. Yep. I love that neither of you said in both of your examples that, and I mean, again, this is up to each individual parent. I get it. Some parents do spank. But neither of you said that. Neither of you said, get off the game or you gonna get your butt spanked. Neither of you said that because
that comes out.
it might come out, but I mean, it might come out. But I'm just saying to go to that place. I often ask some parents that I've even worked with. I often ask them, "Do you want your child to be afraid of you, or do you want them to respect you?" Because there is a difference. Of course, if you threaten to hit a child, they probably will do what you say because they're scared. It's a difference.
No.
So
he's not.
I like that.
Also,
No.
I think she made a good point. Both parents have to be on the same page. One of y'all can't be doing one thing, and the other parent can't be doing another thing, because then the child gets confused.
Yes.
Or they start just
That's
doing
the problem in my
Let me
house.
tell y'all,
Listen.
my husband will promise all the candy in the world and make extra work for himself to have to go to the store and get candy every time he promises it to get the kids to do something. I'm like, you ain't got to do all that. You really don't have to do all that. But
No, so spankings, I want to clear this up because there are people who spank their kids and they're fine with that. And their kids, you know what I mean? You can still thrive on a spanking. A spanking is positive. It's positive punishment. And the reason why it's positive is because you're adding something to the situation. The punishment is done so that you can decrease the behavior. So a spanking will work in real time. It's just, do you want to do that or do you want to change the memory? That's where the spanking comes in. What do you want the memory to be? Do you want it to be, okay, I spanked you because I couldn't get you to do anything because I got frustrated? Or do you want it to be, okay, well, we found another way? I don't want to demonize people for spanking because spanking can be effective too. It's just, what are the effects for later on? That's the thing with spankings.
I disagree.
Okay, that's super behavioral.
I ain't gonna touch that. I ain't gonna touch that one because I know we gonna get some commenters on that. I'm not touching.
Let them come.
No, a punishment doesn't, for a lot of kids, I'm not going to say all, but punishment doesn't work. It doesn't work. It works in the moment. They're going to do what you say in the moment.
In the moment.
They're either suppressing some kind of emotion in response to that, or they're going to go do it somewhere else where you can't see them, and then that becomes a problem. So spanking doesn't work. It is really not that effective, like you said, long term.
That's not, long term. Yeah, I was about to say, it's not true. Like,
but that's the thing, as a parent, don't you want to look more long term when you're making decisions for your kid? It's not always what I'm deciding in the moment. But I mean, we could go into that and talk about behavior modification for hours, and we ain't got that. We got just a couple more minutes, so we're gonna have to wrap it up. And I'm gonna go ahead and do me a little mini on behavior modification, because Skinner, that's my man right there, kinda. I like Skinner.
Let me tell y'all how smooth Amber is with these transitions. Amber will transition us out of anything.
I'm trying. We have 55 minutes. We're going to be at another hour and 20-minute episode.
Go ahead,
We done. All right. Thank y'all for joining. We had lots of fun talking about parents. Nope.
See, she got to be a parent.
That's a spanking right there. Get the belt.
Come here.
No.
Come here. I'm going to put you on the screen real quick. Come here.
But instead of getting the
All
belt, she gave him shared power.
Oh, look at that. Here we go. Look at that. All right. So put your head in the camera. All right. Thank y'all for joining. We just wanted to say we had fun talking about parent-child relationships. My babies here, they've been in the background the whole time. But yeah, y'all have a good night. Thanks for watching.
Bye.